great day in the morning, SeaGoat Squad. It's been a few days. I have been staying true to promise and allowing the energies to have its way with me so that I may grab hold of firsthand content, um, as well as uh, enriching my journaling process in honorarium or in contribution to first the 90-day Journey by Heart series that is running simultaneously as I record this, which I will drop the link to the playlist in the keynotes so that you may go hang out if you like. Also, there have been a series of provocations or invisible invitations that I like to call them, um, that I've been receiving. A lot of the light workers like to call them downloads, but seeing as that I am being infused with this full circle type of perspective, I don't necessarily look at it as being downloads because messages can come from above as well as from below, from within as well as from without. And so, having this type of four corner perspective, I have been challenged to say or assume where they were coming from. And saying that they are downloads automatically means, especially, let me say this, I usually lead my purview. My purview has a golden compass, if you will, and it comes usually it's formed in accordance with the diagram that the um, psychotherapist, even though he was way more than a psychotherapist, but just to keep things simplified, Carl Gustav Jung, Jung, being a self-appointed Jungian, he has this diagram which is hosted inside of the book titled The Portable Jung, The Portable Jung, edited by Joseph Campbell. I want to say copyright 1971 by Penguin Press, if I am not mistaken. And I'm sitting here scanning the room because I know my book is close. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to be able to put my hands on it without pausing the recording. So, what I think I may do is post a photo of, yeah, that's what I'll do. I will post a photo of the diagram on the blog on behalf of the story.blogspot.com so that you can take a look at it, as well as the link to the portable Jung. The diagram is a equal cross, 4 points. At the top of the diagram is sensation, and we're going to go, what is it? We're going to go clockwise. So at the top, 12 o'clock is sensation. And then um, the quarter till is thoughts. The half an hour is intuition. And what is it? No, oh no, the quarter from, I'm sorry. So moving counterclockwise, 12 o'clock is sensation, quarter after is thoughts, half an hour in is intuition, quarter till is feelings. Moving in that direction. So moving in a clockwise manner, the 4 points is sensation, thoughts, intuition, feelings. Now, the way that it is divided is the sensation and the thoughts is part of the left brain hemisphere, and the intuition and the feelings part of the right brain hemisphere, as well as it's associated with the left brain hemisphere being masculine and the right brain hemisphere being feminine. And we're all talking in a realm of divine intervention, divine trifectas, me, myself, and I. So, with that preface being the lens, the purview, when I contemplate things or when I ponder things, most often it is through that view. So, I uh, am often challenged, especially when I'm viewing it in this nature, when I'm viewing it through this lens, to say that I get downloads. So, my invisible invitations, my provocations, had been leading me through a series of research and developmental increments, if you will. This thing called interacting with one's future self. That had been popping up quite a bit. Been and not even and not popping up to stay. It would do cameos. It would pop in, it would chime in, it'll it'll tune in just enough for me to become aware of it, and then it would go away. Now the frequency of this had me begin to write it down. So once I wrote it down, a a style of intuitive investigation started to ensue. And so we're going to title this installation, not even title, the theme. Yeah, I like themes more. The theme of this installment is, oh my, tell me more. For one, because we are inside of the personal power harvesting season. So it goes along with um, the energy calendar with regards to seasons. We are in alignment with the calendar harvest season, the energy harvest season, the astrological harvest season, as well as the therapeutic harvest, harvest season. Intellectually, research and development is of a foreign tongue, just meaning that usually when someone is in the midst of their intellectual harvest seasons, most often they are coming across information that is not familiar to them, and that their inner voice is inviting them to sit and become familiar with it. But at the onset, it's foreign. 75-year anniversary. That continued to ping as well. It wanted me to begin contemplating the elements of this existence with regards to those that can marvel in a 75 anniversary. Businesses, relationships, not necessarily romances or marriages, but like tribal relationships or community relationships, marketplace relationships, scholarly relationships. How many of us can say that we are directly connected to the marvelous energy of a 75 relationship, a 75-year anniversary of dot 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 dot? Because we're talking about some deeply rooted, solidified maturity inside the realm of a 75-year anniversary relationship to a 75-year anniversary of whatever it is. Just imagine the 75th anniversary of a family reunion. Are you kidding me? A 75-year anniversary of an art festival. To just sit and marvel in the likelihood of the esteem and the confidence that surrounds the maturity of a 75-year anniversary anything, good, bad, or indifferent. Because I know right now I'm just pulling out all of the more celebratory moments within the 75-year anniversary. But even on the flip side of that coin, it's still worth pondering, regardless of how we ponder it, the trajectory of what we done, what we're doing, what we could do accommodates this golden innovation, which usually, especially if it's pondered within that trajectory, ensures it being 75 cycles. Like I said, good, bad, or indifferent. Even if it's the 70, even if it's 75-year anniversary of something bad, trust me, whomever the provocateurs are, they have on a yearly basis pondered what we've done, what we're doing, what we can do, to mantle it or dismantle it, to continue to spell it or dispel it. I've been invisibly invited to pose the question, the inquiry of a 75-year anniversary with self, the courtship with self, the courtship with the authentic alignment with self. And take note of those conversations that are offline, where there are no cameras or no mics. We are getting tangled up in this enormous virtual trajectory, because I honestly do not believe it's called the World Wide Web for nothing. And there are still very worthy infusions of our life that happen offline, that happen without the chimes and the conveniences and the reminders. Those elements of life where we don't necessarily need a quote unquote smart gadget to usher us into the natural presence of existence. Because it feels like to me, if we allow certain apparatus to dictate and determine, it's almost like we're giving, how can I say this? We are taking the power from our intuitive selves and giving it over to this virtual unknown instead of relying on our intuitive unknown. We graciously and sometimes unwittingly take that power and put it inside the hands of this virtual intelligence. Being able to observe, identify, endorse this thing called the greatest of all time most often sits outside of what's trendy and where everyone's moving to. Because believe it or not, the trendy part is all by design. It's been forecasted, it's been planned and projected, it's been designed that way. The phenomenon that is not getting, or should know, let me say this, that has had not been getting, starting to build momentum now, but had not been getting its proper due is the relationship with self, one's cultivation of its own uniqueness and individuality. It is now. And that's mainly because social conditionings are now so fucking messy that the alternative truly now has to be to seek from within, from the inside out, which is another thing that I had been provoked to not necessarily investigate because I was already eye, eye to eye with it, but it's the Disney movie Inside Out, where the inner life of the main character was given personification. Each emotion was spotlighted. Well, each of the more main emotions were spotlighted, and the sneak peek, if you will, into the interwoven activities of how our emotions are infused and how they intermingle with one another inside of one vessel, aka yourself. Walking inside of an active courtship with self truly is a language immersion program. You are decoding your inner sacred text. You are gathering firsthand experiences, whether you write them out inside of the 3D or you take mental account and it ultimately gets stored in this thing called your invisible library, aka your Akashic records. But we're always inside the mode of human meaning making, meaning we are defining things for ourselves every moment, every second of every hour of every day. We're always revisiting the story, whether it's our true, authentic story, as it's in conjunction with other stories. But the main narrative is always part of our focus, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so, with that said, I want to say about 2 or 3 days ago, the moment I woke up, inside of my inner voice was le numinous activated. Now, I have been researching the word numinous for some time now. To put the lay in front of it, yes, it has the French origination. But for some reason, and I haven't yet pinpointed exactly what that means to me, but I am grabbed. I am attracted to the French language. It is something very sexy to me. And I'm pretty sure it has that magnetism to many others. Um, and I've identified it that I'm amongst those. Le numinous activated. And it was said with such vibrancy, as if it was a confirmation, as if Nana was calling and say, "All right, baby, it's time to eat." Like one of those, like no questions, like yes, this is it. So now act upon this as so. I'm going to roll down some of the things that I've been intrigued by up under the Lenuminous Activated banner. And so, first and foremost, it's the weaving of one's lifelong tapestry from the wonders of intrapersonal developments, inner healing arts like meditation and journaling, and as well as the activated engagements during courtships with self and invisible muses there's a thing called quest mate networking that has been making cameo appearances inside of my consciousness as well. And I have yet to truly hone in to what that means to me, but I know it's along the lines of those upon a quest to seek out the wisdom of their own uniqueness, to align with their authentic selves, to begin to give gratitude and gracious attention to the invisible muses and guides that dwell around them inside their invisible spaces, that seek to protect them as well as those that they love. Help them connect their dots as they maneuver through this thing called human life. Now, with that said, there's a circle of immaculate conversations that one will have to either propel them, soothe them, heal them, educate them, restore them, sustain them. Sometime last year, I came across a TED Talk by Celeste Healy, 10 Ways to Have a Better Conversation. And I had been holding on to this piece of information, just pondering it and um, getting to know it, having it become familiar within my inner spaces before I began to speak about it aloud. And so now is the time, because as I said in the beginning of this installment, we are inside the intellectual harvest season. And so I'm going to roll those out real quickly before I run down the rest of my inclinations, if you will. Okay, so number one, do not multitask when inside of an engaging conversation. Now, let me just preface, immaculate conversations can be with you or with yourself. Or let me switch it around, because the conversations with you come first. Can be with you or someone. Did I say that right? Can be with yourself or with someone else. Or can be within yourself, meaning conversations with all your muses, your inner core, and then, yeah, from the inside out. I have to listen to the recording because it felt like I was saying something different, but after I said it, felt like I was saying the same thing. So especially when you're having a conversation with yourself or with those inside your intergalactic spaces, inside your invisible, imaginal spaces, do not multitask. Our ultra active social conditionings love to say that we ought to be multitasking, but trust and believe when I say you, yourself, and I am can only focus authentically on one thing at a time. Now, yes, your attention can be divided, and that means you're not giving 100% to anything. Before I even get into this, it used to be amazing to me. And this was before I had content or, what can I say, formal curriculum around what it is that I was doing. But if I'm in the middle of something and the phone rings and I am in agreement to taking that phone call, I have to stop everything else. I've never been able to hold a conversation and do other things that I had to concentrate on. Let me make that clear. So, like, I can talk and chew gum. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can talk and do the laundry. I can talk and prepare food. I can talk and walk. But I can't talk and draft an email. I can't talk and watch TV. Something's not going to get paid attention to. And I've become very sensitive to that. If I'm inside of a conversation and it doesn't flow like we're dancing, almost immediately my intuition will say their attention is divided. And I'll let them go. I'll say, okay, well, I'll talk to you later or whatever, because it almost feels like if I can stop what I'm doing, especially if you call me. If you call me and me and my soul, we are in agreement to taking the conversation, taking the phone call, and then it gets to the point where your attention is divided, I sense that. And then it's like, okay, well, what did you call me for? And if I'd have known your attention was going to be all chopped and screwed, then I would have went on and let you go to voicemail. And I would have talked to you, later. The interruption was the interruption was warranted because it was you. And so all of that to say that when we do engage folks to hold conversations, that we take a better account into how we are proposing this interaction take place. We do not, on a more social level, give more value to the time that we converse with people. How do we show up inside the conversation? We love the words also responsibility and accountability. Apply those two words to your conversations. Me and my cousin was just speaking last night, and even though it was more of a lighthearted conversation, she made some really, really good points about her, and then I chimed in. So I'll say about we, about us, and our devotion to sharpening our swords, aka investing in our vocabulary, spending time with our dictionary, making sure we understand certain things, and being in alignment with where our hearts are saying we need to educate ourselves. Like, not necessarily have to sit in some seminar or somebody's class where the learning is facilitated. No, just like be in tune to our inner voice that says, go check this out. Go to the library and get more books about this. And we actually stay tuned in and devoted to finding out some things for ourselves. With that type with those types of habits comes an enlightened, more enriched set of vocabulary, levels of vocabulary. Like, each time you go and analyze and investigate and research and develop according to your inner ear, it's an intellectual leveling up. And then we get in these conversations, and I will specifically keep it to what we were speaking about, is that she runs across an old friend, and so she's delighted, and inside her mind and his, they're figuring, okay, maybe we can give this another go. But as the week as the weeks unfold, she's realizing that the intellectual quality of the conversation is fucking lopsided. Let's just keep it real. It's lopsided. And then she becomes the teacher instead of the collaborative. And so, yet again, she's deflated and depleted. Because it's like, if I can hone into my due diligence to educate myself, the library is free, for Pete's sake. And no, you don't go to the library to get online and surf the bullshit. No, you really go into the library to engage the wealth of knowledge that's there. And libraries are still free. We even dabbled in the tragedy that the libraries in and around where we dwell, for the most part, are still empty. The most traffic that the libraries get in our area is when the kids let out. They got some kind of project or something. But like, the men, and I'll say the women too, let's keep it fair, balanced. Like, the sports bar is a lot more crowded than the library or the bookstore. The arts and crafts store. So I digress. So I'll get to rambling. Okay, so do not multitask when inside conversations with yourself or others. Do not pontificate like what I just did when inside an engaging relationship with others. Now, amazingly enough, I'll have to say, because this is a recording and I am the one to be talking, those moments, like, yes, that they are wholeheartedly welcomed. But when I am engaged in conversation, especially um, with someone else, with another human, most often I serve as the listener. Like, I wait for moments to invite me to speak, as well as I wait for the indication when I have to go in or go hard. But most often, I serve as the listener. I serve as the one that renders undivided attention and I'm listening. And it struck me weird. There was a phase in my life where it struck me weird where I used to say, why do I keep attracting all these talkative people? Like, I hardly ever get or come across folks that are curious and ask me questions. I am always the inquisitive. I am always the one that's posing the questions, gathering information, inviting folks to tell me about themselves. And there was just this weird space and time when I kind of got tired of it. I was like, why do I always have to be the listener in the conversation? And then it was to the point where there was this weird phase where I wasn't even asking questions. I just continued to attract people that just run their mouth. I mean, talk, 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 talk. I would have to fight to get one or two sentences in. But I'm going to tell you what it did. It gave me the opportunities to sharpen up those moments when I say, okay, are you going to let me speak? And not as sassy and sarcastic as that was, because I'm speaking in context to the flow of what I'm talking about, but all depending, all really truly all depending on the energies that I have to work with. And I began to take account of those that will speak and then give space for the other to speak, like we're dancing. Conversation is an intellectual dance, it's an emotional dance. And if you're able to have intelligence and personality and emotionality inside one conversation, those are immaculate conversations. Those are the dances that would get my score of 1,000. So the next one, number 3, use open-ended questions. Number 4, go with the flow. Number 5, if you don't know, say you don't know. Number 6, don't equate your experiences to theirs. Number 7, try not to repeat yourself. I have to work on that one. Quite a bit I do. Number 8, stay out of the weeds. And let me just say, stay out of the weeds means that you're inside a conversation and you have to give all the details. And she was wearing a red dress and she said this and then he said this and then I looked at the clock and it was 9 o'clock and then the bell rang and that kind of thing. Where you just like you taking folks into like the weeds of your words. And it doesn't mean that you don't give detail, but I think as we move into the awareness of being uh, utilizers of wiser words, that we will understand the details that coincide uniquely with the conversation. And those are the details that are rendered because it applies exclusively to the content and the context of the conversation. Number 9, listen. Number 9 is listen. Number 10, be brief. And not brief with regards to the, the time span of the conversation itself, but brief in intervals of how you move and then allow them to move within either, uh, within the content and the context. So that means you say something and then you allow open space and silence for the opportunity for them to say something. And then if you say something and you realize that there is quite a bit of space of silence, meaning that the other person has nothing else to offer, then you get that as an indication that you may speak more, or you understand the sensitivities of the conversation where you ask questions instead of speak more. Because often enough, I wonder how many can sense within the silent gaps, within the silent bubbles of a conversation. And if they actually have the wherewithal to inquire about that silence. What I'm really truly noticing is that folks may inquire about the silence, but they really are not tuned in, tapped in, turned on by the answers they receive from that inquiry. Quest mate networking. Looking forward to networking with those that are upon the same quest inside the realm of immaculate conversations. What I like to call creativity chaperones. So I am going to run down, but we're going to close out. We're going to close out this installment with an entry that I wrote inside of one of my journals, which says, I am courting myself. It starts with meditation. So it says, healing is an inner private affair. And most often, when we are healing, we are projected to heal from our fears, from being rejected, from not belonging, and the voids of lovelessness. We may not all agree on this, but I got an inkling that when you show up inside of a conversation and you do not render your undivided attention, there's love loss. And I don't mean love loss meaning that it's enough love, it's enough loss to uh, determine the trajectory of the acquaintance. But even if it's just 1%, there's 1% of intuitive love that is taken away from the acquaintance. Give the much needed time and attention to better understand the presence of your shadow self. We like to ignore our shadow self. We like to bury our emotions and act like we don't feel the way that we do. But I swear to you, I have begun to gain a sensitivity around those that show up ignoring their shadow self. They almost become attention whores because they don't give it to themselves. So they're going to demand it from you. Inside conversations. Remember, we're talking about immaculate conversations. Understanding the presence of one's shadow self makes for a better conversation. It makes for a more authentic expression within conversations. It makes for a much less judgmental conversation. I'll tell you that. I've also gained the privilege of sitting in conversations with those that will talk about everyone else except themselves. Remember, one's tone of voice truly reveals how you feel. And so it goes on to say the legendary lesson is an increase of time and attention upon self. And when I speak of self, as I've mentioned many times before, it's capital S, capital E, capital L, capital F. The sacred slash Sankofa energy life force. When we're talking about the lowercase self, that's me, M-E, inside the trajectory of me, myself, and I am. So I'm proposing that we refrain from shying away from our times when we need to sit with our shadow selves and that we actually start to discover the magic and the beauty inside of our chaos, making it golden. We're transmuting. It's called astral alchemy, sacred alchemy, relationship with self. We're transmuting our lead based situations into golden enlightenment. And while we do that, it would be good that we more often say yes, thank you, and more please when we find ourselves inside of the situations with the people and the places and things that challenge us. And yes, the things that challenge us as they reveal themselves to us in a more transformative presence, like they have arrived to transform us. Only in hindsight did I realize that stretch of me attracting talkative people was so I would be able to analyze and bring forth the lesson in listening, to being the observer of this quality of conversation. Had I not been engaged in it firsthand, I wouldn't have been able to uh, compare and contrast on certain levels, seeing as that I am a research and developer of conversation. And last but definitely not least, refrain from forcing the situation or attempting to influence it in any kind of way. Instead, ask it to reveal its beauty to you. This wholeheartedly applies to the challenges with mind, body, and reflection, with ourselves and with others, alongside our finances, our work study circumstances, and any kind of creative efforts. Immaculate Conversation Circles is our trajectory. Imagineering and story sponsorships is also our trajectory. And so I'll close out with this, a quote from Lucia Anais, and I want to try to say her last name, Satyagraha, Satyagraha, in a conversation with Sabrina Marnock, the Magic of the Fears podcast. And so, which I recommend, I think I'm going to link that. I think I'm going to link that in the keynotes so you can treat yourself. You want to talk about an immaculate conversation, and it's in two parts. Absolutely. I'm going to pay that forward because that is also, yeah, honey, it is like honorarium while we're inside of our intellectual harvest season. And the quote is, I give myself permission to express myself imperfectly. That's the first quote. There are actually two. Second quote, the programming is thick, and we're here to shift and change that. And I will infuse that quote by saying it starts with our conversations with self and with others. We have to begin to show up to conversations with undivided attention. And with that said, I am hoping that you will find yourself a quest mate. I am hoping that the momentum to quest mate networking finds its place inside of our due diligent, devoted, immaculate conversations, as well as we put life to giving ourselves permission to express imperfectly and to understand that the programming is very thick and that we are here to shift and change that. I hope this has been enlightening for you. So thank you for joining me, and I wish you well.